Thank you for your attendance. We welcome to the Vancouver Buddhist Temple. Today, however you may have found out, we are presenting this as a public lecture. And I welcome our guest minister, Reverend Bob Oshita from the Buddhist Temple of Sacramento. Reverend Oshita is second or third generation, born in Waverly, Iowa. I don't know whether many people know where Waverly is, but nonetheless, he was actually born in Waverly, Iowa. He tells me that he is now 60 years of age.
No, 59.
Oh, 59, I'm sorry.
Or 8 more months, 7 more months.
Yeah, I apologize. He is the third and the favorite child of 4, born to Sam and Setsuko Oshita. At the age of 2, he returned with the family to San Francisco, out on the coast. Grew up in post-war San Francisco, attending the Buddhist Church of San Francisco. Each year, he strived to attain the 1 or 2 day absent award, rather than the perfect attendance award at the Dharma school. Graduate studies were completed at the University of California at Berkeley, majoring in psychology. He further went on to graduate studies at the Institute of Buddhist Studies at Berkeley, an affiliation of University of California, Berkeley. He then proceeded to receive his Tokudo in Kyoto in the fall of 1973, and then his Kyoshi received in Kyoto in the fall of 1974. These are procedures that direct him towards ordination of the ministry. First step, Tokudo; second step, Kyoshi. His first Buddhist Churches of America assignment was at the Los Angeles Betsuing. And those were during the periods of August of 1975 through to 1978. He then took a leave of absence from assigned ministry from December of 1978 for a period of 6 years, I believe. Studied briefly again in returning to Japan, or going to Japan, then returned to work in San Francisco at the West Side Mental Health Center as a community education specialist. After his 6 years leave of absence, he returned to the Buddhist Churches of America in 1984, requesting and receiving an assignment to be the 31st minister to serve the Sacramento Buddhist Church Betsuing. In August of 1986, he married Patty Gale, and she was originally from Fowler, California. Been married
21 years.
21 years.
21 times.
And has since served the Sacramento Betsuing for the last 24 years. I will just conclude by saying that he is the Rinban, which is the head minister of the temple in Sacramento, which, by the way, is the largest membership, the largest Jōdo Shinshū Buddhist temple in membership in all of North America. So he has a very heavy task of maintaining his temple. He has assistant minister as well as ministerial assistants, which number 5 or 6. And he's been able to take time away. We've been wanting him to come and help and join us for the longest time, for many, many years. And finally, we are able to have him. So we're really quite delighted that he can be with us.
Thank
so
you.
May I just turn it over to you then?
Thank
Sensei?
you very much, Dr. Bob. This is the first time I'm being taped for DVD. So, yeah. I'd like to thank Aoki Sensei for the invitation to come to Vancouver Buddhist Temple. And this is just a beautiful facility. I was here about 12, 13 years ago. I spoke in Steveston, and that was a wonderful trip. Long ago, Matsubayashi Sensei was the bishop at the time, and you had, I think, just completed building the headquarters in Steveston. So years have passed, and over the years I've grown, unfortunately, more responsible. I never thought I would be this responsible in my whole life. And I also have to say, I never thought I would be enjoying myself as much. As mentioned, Dr. Bob mentioned, I started at the Los Angeles Betsuin back in 1975, and I took a leave of absence after 4 years, for over 6 years, and returned to Sacramento. During my leave of absence, I will honestly say I was completely disenchanted with being a part of a temple as a minister. I think it was the politics. No, I know it was the politics of the temple. And I think also I was young. And one day my father, after being away for a number of years, he said to me, when are you going back? I shared this story last night with Dr. Bob and Molly and Sensei. My dad said, when are you going back to the temples? And I said, Dad, I don't know if I'm ever going back. And he said, no, you'll go back. And I said, what makes you think that? And he, with a smile, he said, it's the only thing you're any good at. And I protested and said, no, I can do a lot of things. He just smiled and walked away. And I have to say now in retrospect, as I look back, I think he was absolutely right. It's the only thing I think I would have been really happy doing. My wife has said to me many times, but the first time, some 20 years ago, no, maybe 18 years ago, so she said, Bob, for someone with absolutely no tact, you have maximized your potential. And I said to her a few years ago, I think it's safe to say that I've far exceeded my potential. And to be a part of the Sacramento Betsuin Sangha and the work that Socho Gui is doing now with BCA is just really beyond my expectations. Today, Aoki Sensei asked me to give a lecture, and when he asked me to choose a topic, I thought Buddhism for Dummies. Buddhism for Dummies. And I think this is actually a good description of Jōdo Shinshū. Jōdo Shinshū is Buddhism for Bombu. Buddhism for we who are truly incapable. And Jōdo Shinshū, in a way, we might even describe it as Buddhism for Dummies. But with that title, I want to really start at the beginning. One of my favorite lines when I think of where shall I start, I think of the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland giving her advice, saying, start at the beginning, then go on until the end, then stop, which I will try to do. So to start at the beginning, I want to give you maybe just an overview of Buddhism, because this is Buddhism for Dummies. Is there anyone here completely new to Buddhism? Oh, very good. Yeah. Relatively new? Okay, very good. And even if you've been coming for years, I think it's really wonderful to review the essentials. And if the Buddhist temples in Canada are anything like the ones in BCA, and I think it is, we have the most wonderful membership. We have the friendliest, most generous, the kindest, most giving people. And yet there is a kind of a reputation within BCA temples that the temples are cold. When members come, when new people come, they say, gee, no one comes up to talk to me, or no one greets me. And I said, no, temples aren't cold, members are not cold. We have the most wonderful members. But what we have is our members are not really comfortable with people who are new because they're afraid they might ask them a question. Huh. If you see this new face, it's hard. They don't go over there because if they sit with them, they might ask a bunch of questions like, oh, what are they doing? Or what are they chanting? Or what are you saying when you put your hands together? Huh? And when we as members feel comfortable with the Dharma, with our tradition, then we can't help but want to bring our friends. And I think in a way, Dr. Bob asked me last night what I felt was the success of the Sacramento Betsuin. Part of it is that the members understand why they're there. You know, if the children and the members, and that was my goal when I first went there, I want every child there to understand something about Buddhism. So if someone asks them, you're a Buddhist, so what is Buddhism? They'll have something to say. What is it we can say? We say we're Buddhists, so what is Buddhism? We say we are Jōdo Shinshū, so what is Jōdo Shinshū? And hopefully today I expect all of you to walk out of this room today with something where you could say, this is Buddhism, I know what it is. This is Jōdo Shinshū, I know what it is. A beginning, foundation. So, okay, so what is Buddhism? Before I get into it any further, we're still trying to figure out what Buddhism is. People have asked, is it religion? Is it philosophy? Is it a way of life? Well, first of all, Buddhism is not theology. It is not theology. Because theology implies divine being, theos. It implies the existence of divinity. So Buddhism is not theology. Buddha is not a god, not a creator, not a destroyer, not someone that makes things happen. We can pray to Buddha for a whole month, chanting sutras. Oh, please let me win lotto. All Buddhism guarantees is sore throat from chanting for a whole month. It's not a matter of that. So it's not a deity, not theology. And then it's not necessarily religion. Webster describes religion as a set of institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. And Buddhism is not a belief system. Not a belief system. Everything that Buddhism teaches is not for you to believe. Isn't that great? Right? Everything is taught not to be believed. I teach this to my kids 9, 10 years old and tell them, everything I'm teaching you is not to be believed. It's for you to test. Is it true? Does it make sense? And if it does, apply it. Live with it. Buddha didn't say, believe me, feel the Amida in me. No, it was not about blindly following and believing. It's not a belief system. It's a system of truth. Dharma means truth in the greatest definition of the word. Doesn't mean belief. Dharma is truth. Let truth awaken you. Is it philosophy? Webster's definition: seeking general understanding of values and reality by chiefly speculative rather than observational means. And by this definition, then Buddhism is not philosophy, because Buddhism is not speculative. It is objective. It is objective. So I asked one of my old friends, some of you, maybe you've heard him, Bhante Silavimala. He's a Sri Lankan monk. He has a center in Berkeley. I think he has a center in Canada too, but he has one in West Sacramento, and I've known him over 35 years. And we were talking once when he gave a lecture at our Betsuin, and I asked him, Bhante, what are we? What is Buddhism? People ask, is it theology? Is it religion? Is it philosophy? Is it way of life? And he said to me, I don't know. When you figure it out, let me know. And I've come upon something that I think I'm beginning to chew on a little bit, kind of thinking about whether this could be it. And I'll share it with you later. So, to understand that Buddhism is not really philosophy, not really religion, not theology. It's something more. And this, I think, is wonderful, because this is what Socho Gui has been, in a way, encouraging all along. Not to come to conclusions. Buddhism is also a tradition that encourages not to come to conclusions. Socho has said many times, wanting to come to conclusions is a modern disease. Wanting to come to conclusions is a modern disease. We always want to know something and conclude, say, I know what that is, but not to conclude. So Buddhism, let's for a moment leave it wide open and figure out for ourselves what it might be. So, let me tell you the story of Siddhartha. Buddhism for Dummies. We're starting at the beginning. And we have to remember, when we think about the story of Siddhartha, the story that talks about the beginning of the Buddha Dharma being taught, Siddhartha lived 2,500 years ago. And the longer ago someone lives from us in time, the more removed they are from us in time, the more that the legends and the stories surrounding this personality and the historical fact are going to become more and more intertwined until you can't tell them apart. Thinking about even just very charismatic, famous personalities in the history of North America. In the United States, George Washington, a little over 200 years ago. The history, historical fact, and the legends surrounding him, sometimes hard to tell the difference. How much more so for someone who lived 500 years ago, 2,500 years ago. And so, this is the story of Siddhartha, the legend of Siddhartha. That he was born, Siddhartha Gautama. He was the prince of King Suddhodana and Queen Maya. And he was raised with every imaginable luxury of his time. This was the story of Siddhartha. Raised with every imaginable luxury. Born in Lumbini Garden. Soon after his birth, his mother, Queen Maya, passed away. And he was raised by his mother's sister, Prajapati. And there was a prophecy at his birth that Siddhartha would become either a great warrior king, uniting vast areas, or he would become a Buddha, a great spiritual leader. And of course, his father wanted a warrior king. And so he kept from Siddhartha anything that might cause him to be too thoughtful, to contemplate life too deeply. And again, see, this is the legend, So if you can imagine, hard to imagine in this day and age, anyone growing up to 10, 12, 16, 18 years of age and never having encountered anyone who was old or sick or who had passed away. But this is how it was in the legend of Siddhartha, that he encountered, his father kept all these things from him. And then there's the story of the famous 4 gates, the 4 gates to the city. And Siddhartha with his charioteer Channa leaving one day for a ride, and as they left the gate, of course, soldiers would precede him, and they would shout, Siddhartha's coming, the prince is coming, everyone smile and be happy. And if there was someone who was maybe in any way looking different, there was someone who was sick, or if there was a funeral going on, or if there was someone who was very old, they tell them, okay, you go inside, Prince shouldn't see you. And although this would happen, and Prince, every time he looked around, Prince Siddhartha would see everyone happy and smiling, one day, as he exited one of the gates of the city, he encountered an old person, someone very old. And I'll explain this as I do to my 8, 9, 10-year-olds when I teach my classes, because this is Buddhism for Dummies. So, with Chana leaving the gate, and for the first time he saw someone who was really, really old. And he said, "Oh, Chana, stop the chariot. Whoa, what's going on here?" And he said to the old man, I said, "Wow, what happened to you? I've never seen anyone looks like you." And the old man just said, "Young prince, I am old. And even you, although you are young and strong now, even you, if you are fortunate to live long, even you will become old." And Prince Siddhartha said, "Hey, no way." And the guy said, "Way. It can happen." And he made him think about this. And then another day he was going through second gate of the city with Chana. And although the soldiers would go ahead and ahead of him and make everyone to encourage them to smile and hide anyone who might make Prince Siddhartha think too much about life, he saw for the first time someone who was really ill. Maybe this person had leprosy, missing parts of his nose and ears, face. And the prince had the chariot stopped and said, "Wow." He said, "Dude, what happened to you? I've never seen anyone look like you." And this person said, "Prince, I am sick. I have an illness. I have a disease. Even you, even though you are young and healthy now, even you or someone you love may someday have a disease as I do." And Prince Siddhartha said, "No way." The guy said, "It can happen." And then the third gate, he encountered a funeral, saw people moaning, wailing, mourning. And he asked, "What's going on?" And he was told, "These people have lost someone they loved and they're grieving." And he said, "What are you talking about?" And he was told, "Even you, young prince, someday you too will die. There will be an end to your life." And he said, "No way." He said, "It happens, way." So this is again the legend of Siddhartha. And this caused him to think. And in the fourth gate, he went through the fourth gate and he encountered a Buddha. He encountered an enlightened monk. And he saw the countenance of this monk, such peace. And he stopped the chariot and he said, "Who are you? You never seen anyone who looks like you." And this monk told him, "I am a seeker of truth. I've given up all worldly possessions to seek the truth." And this, I think, is when the seed was planted for Siddhartha someday to also seek the truth. So this legend of Siddhartha, in a way, speaks to all of us. Each of us growing up, when we're young, we're unaware that this is life. But in time, we all realize that we grow old, and people we love grow older, and that we become sick, and people we love can also become sick, and that there is death. So each of us is like Siddhartha. We have each gone through those gates. But at the fourth gate, he encountered enlightenment. Siddhartha became the historical Shakyamuni Buddha. He wasn't the first Buddha, not the last Buddha. People think of him as the Buddha. He is the historical Buddha. He is like a enlightenment, the seed of enlightenment that was planted in the right soil, the right time, in the right climate, in the right season. And it took root and it grew. And so Siddhartha's life in teaching the Dharma, it took root, the Dharma spread and exists today. And we refer to him today as the Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakya is his family clan. Muni means wise person. And Buddha is a title. It's not, literally, it just means one who is awake. One who is awake. So, Shakyamuni Buddha means the wise person from the Shakya family who awakened. Each of us has the potential to become a Buddha. Each of us has the potential to awaken. Each of us does. And so, if one of you becomes enlightened, you might be known as the Vancouver Muni Buddha. The wise person from Vancouver who awakened. So, the story of Siddhartha is then, it continues after beginning to contemplate life. He goes on to finally give up all worldly possessions. He renounces his inheritance and his title and his kingdom, and he goes off in search of his happiness. Deep inside, he's unfulfilled. Something's not right. And here again, Siddhartha is just like all of us. That each of us, we are also seeking our happiness. Whether we admit it or not, all of us want to be happy. No one wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I hope I have misery and pain today." Everyone wants to be happy. And Siddhartha gave everything up, as this monk explained to him, to seek his happiness, to seek the truth. And so Siddhartha did this for 6 years. It said he mastered every discipline that he encountered, and still somehow not satisfied. Finally, he began to fast. After you renounce all your possessions, what else can you renounce? And you renounce your pleasures, what few things you enjoy. And eventually you renounce even the enjoyment of eating. And the legend of Siddhartha says that he was eating but 1 grain of rice a day. Can you imagine? I ate at least 2 years worth of gohan yesterday, if that's the case. But 1 grain of rice a day, just amazing. And he was so skinny you could see his backbone through his, from the front. Legend says Siddhartha was on the verge of dying and he knew it. And he also realized he's no closer to the truth. So he took nourishment and he gained strength. And it said at that point 5 other monks that were following him. And they felt that if anyone's going to find the truth, it's Siddhartha, because he's so determined that they'll follow him, and when he discovers what is true, they'll be the first to know. So when Siddhartha began to eat, they looked at him and said, "He's given up. We thought he was the bomb, but he's just a wimp. Forget him." And they left him. They deserted him. And Siddhartha then sat beneath an old tree, meditated with great determination. And it said on the morning of December 8th, as the sun rose in the east, Siddhartha awakened to the Dharma. And after that point, he's called the Shakyamuni Buddha. So now we understand, we're on the same page here. This is the story of Siddhartha. What he taught from that point, we call the Buddha Dharma. And as I mentioned, Dharma, the greatest meaning of the word means truth. Buddha Dharma, the truth of awakening. So how do we wake up? So the Siddhartha went, it said, from the tree that then came to be known as the Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment, went to the deer park where these 5 monks were. And when they saw him, of course, they said, just ignore him, there's Siddhartha, the wimp. But something was different about him, and they were open to listening to him. And they became aware of the Dharma. And for the first time at the deer park, the 3 treasures gathered. The Buddha sharing the Dharma with the first Sangha, the 5 monks. The 3 treasures gathered for the first time. And what did the Buddha teach at that point? What he taught spread, and we call today Buddhism, the ism of awakening. So what did Siddhartha teach? Okay. Middle path. Four Noble Truths. And Eightfold Path. Okay? This is the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma. These are the things that he taught initially. Most of you are familiar with these things, huh? Middle Path, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. But I don't want you to be concerned with numbers. We're not here to learn lists of things, 4 of these, 6 of those, 8 of these. Learning lists, inconsequential. The lists have to make sense. Otherwise, our understanding is really just memorizing, huh? It's not about memorizing, but it's about understanding. What is it that the Buddha taught? Why are these things so important? With Four Noble Truths. And the first of the Four Noble Truths is life is dukkha. Dukkha. Dukkha is the Sanskrit word that often is translated as suffering. Huh? Have you heard that? Life is suffering? Yeah. And that suffering is how it's translated, and it is true that dukkha means suffering. But dukkha is much more than just that, huh? Much more than just that. And dukkha, I think the translation I really like the best is that life is dis-ease. Dis-ease. Okay. Okay? Life is dis-ease. Life is always uneasy. So life is dis-ease. And do you see the word disease in there? Huh? The word disease means dis-ease. That we are uneasy. That we don't feel right. Life is always a sense of dis-ease. And it could be from anxiety and stress all the way to deep suffering, sorrow. So the spectrum of dis-ease. Life is dis-ease. Life is suffering. And the way I explain it to my kids, I said this, life is tough. How's that? If I say life is suffering, most people go, well, I don't know about that, It's tough sometimes, but if I say life is tough, then people say, hey, tell me about it. Yeah, life is tough. Why is life tough? Second of the Four Noble Truths. Second, why is life tough? Because we're selfish. I'll just put, life is tough because we're selfish. And the third, how to make life not so tough? Not tough. How to make life not so uneasy? Don't be selfish. Huh? Makes sense? Don't be selfish. And the fourth one, how to help us not be selfish? Follow the Eightfold Path. Okay? That's the Four Noble Truths. Life is tough. Why is life tough? Because we're self-centered and selfish. How do we make life not so tough? Don't be so self-centered. Don't be selfish. And how do we help ourselves not to be selfish? Follow the Eightfold Path. So I'm going to take a step back here, and I will come back to Middle Path, and I'm going to come back to everything here. and I'm going to give you the essence of Buddhism in a nutshell. Okay? What is Buddhism? Someone comes up to you. You're a Buddhist, you're raised Buddhist. What is Buddhism? That is really a very, very important question. We have to have something that we understand that we can say. And I speak from experience because I was embarrassed in college when I was asked, so you're a Buddhist, what is Buddhism? I was raised going to the Buddhist Temple of San Francisco. And when I was asked this question, I thought, well, let's see, we do origami, we have beads, and once I made this wheel out of popsicle sticks, and we pasted pictures in a book. Remember when we used to do that? Yeah. And so, I had nothing to say. And I was asked during a class. This was a class, I was a psych major, and they were talking about different dimensions of our lives that impact on our personality development, one of which was religion. They went around the class, and this is the 60s at Berkeley, talking about religion and what religion are you? And it came to me, and I said, well, I'm agnostic. You know, I had stopped going to the temple some years ago, and the instructor said, well, I think many kids now in college are agnostic. What religion were you raised? And I said, oh, I was raised a Buddhist. In the class, I could see, you could feel the energy. People went, whoa, you were raised a Buddhist? This is 1968, huh? And all the interest in Buddhism, especially in at that time, wow. And they looked at me like, wow, man, you were raised a Buddhist. We got a live one, and he speaks English, huh? And so they said, what's Buddhism all about? What is it all about? And come on. I'm a junior at Cal. What am I don't want to say, oh, I don't know. So my mom, interesting, when I asked her years before to describe what were we like, my brothers and sisters and I were growing up, she described each of us, and then she didn't say anything about me. And I said, well, Mom, how about me? What was I like when I was growing up? And she said this, she said, you are clever. She said, saiki na ko datta. I was clever. I said, that's it? Clever? But I guess she's right. There's something probably that Mom knows. And at that moment, my I guess, cleverness was really helped out, because when I was asked, well, tell us, what's Buddhism all about? I said, well, how much time left to class? They said 20 minutes. I said, hey, 20 minutes, don't even get me started. 20 minutes, insufficient time. As soon as I get into it, it'll be over. And then they said, well, how about next time? I said, sure, yeah, next time is fine. So I had from Thursday to Tuesday to understand the Dharma. And I went to the bookstore, I went to the library, and I started to read, and I heard San Francisco Buddhist Temple had a new young minister. And so I went back, crossed the bay, some 12 miles, back to my hometown, and met the new young minister at the San Francisco Buddhist Temple, and his name was Koshin Ogui, who is now the bishop of BCA. And we became very good friends, and he helped me a great deal, introduced me to so many new thoughts, and became, at that point, also a mentor in my life. And Socho Gui is clearly a chance taker, because some years later he wrote my letter of recommendation to study. But at that time, I was fascinated with what I was learning. So many things that I didn't realize Buddhism was. And so, to make a long story a little shorter, I got through the following Tuesday pretty well. But more than that, I became really curious about the Dharma. Suddenly, I wanted to know more about it. Wow, this is pretty interesting stuff. And then I realized we have to have something to say. We should know, what does this mean to us? And so, what is Buddhism? From that moment, in that classroom, became important for me to try to share, for people to have a feel for themselves, what is Buddhism? So this is what I want you to leave with today, if nothing else. Okay? Buddhism is the teaching of, and you know this, but just to hear it. Buddhism is the teaching of impermanence. Yeah. If you say that alone, you're in there. You could stop right there and be just absolutely correct. Okay? Buddhism is the teaching of impermanence. It's one of the three essential foundation teachings. Buddhism is the teaching of impermanence, the teaching of change. Buddhism teaches the reality that in life nothing can last forever. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing stays the same, moment to moment. Yeah. And this understanding of impermanence is the seed of wisdom. It's easy to know, hard to live. Really understanding impermanence. And as I teach my kids, 9, 10 years old, I ask them, is impermanence good or bad? And the answer, the response is this: neither. It's reality. Impermanence is not good or bad. Impermanence is reality. The truth of impermanence is reality. Is this something for you to believe? Buddhism teaches this. Are we supposed to believe this? No. You're supposed to test it. Is it true? Look at your life. Is it true? And if it is, then apply it. Apply it. Live with awareness that this is reality. Open our eyes to impermanence, and our wisdom, Dharma eyes begin to open. So Buddhism is the teaching of impermanence, the teaching of change. Okay? Secondly, we can say this. I'm going to give you two things to say. Okay? Buddhism is the teaching of interdependence. Interdependence. I can't even spell it. Dependence. Okay? Buddhism is the teaching of interdependence, that everything is one. All things are interconnected. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Nothing happens simply by itself. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. Interdependence. This we call sometimes the teaching of oneness. Buddhism is the teaching of change and oneness. Teaching of impermanence and interdependence. You can call it the two eyes of Buddhism. Help you to remember that. The two eyes of Buddhism help us to see. Are these things good or bad? Neither. It's reality. Are they for us to believe? No. They're for us to test. Is it true? And when our eyes open to this truth, then do we begin to live with awareness and appreciation. We do not live in a vacuum. We do not exist simply by ourselves. We are interconnected with the entire world, with the entire universe. That the rainforests belting the equator, plankton in the ocean, the trees and the mountains, all creating oxygen to sustain life. The sun, 93 million miles away, warms the earth, allowing life to thrive. If the sun so far away suddenly went out, within 2 minutes the earth would cool and life would no longer exist. Yeah, we are not separate from the sun. We're not separate from the ocean or the forest or the earth. The world is one. We exist as one. We are interconnected, interdependent. And yet within this interdependence, everything is constantly changing. So these are the two things the Buddhism is. Remember this, and if you leave only with this, that's fine. Okay? What is Buddhism? This is it right there. It's more, but we'll just keep this in mind. Okay? So, Four Noble Truths, getting back to this. Life is tough. Why? Why is it tough? Because actually, we're always adjusting to change. Huh? Always adjusting to change. You get in the shower, it's too hot, it's too cold. Huh? Making adjustments so it's comfortable. Comfortable for who? For me. Huh? We're trying, oh, it's too hot, oh, it's too cold, oh, you know. And we want it good for us. Huh? It's all about the self. But constantly we're making adjustments. And then, why is life tough? Because we are so self-centered. How do we make life not so difficult? Let's not be so self-centered. When we think about the problems in the world today, what is the root of the problems? Everyone wants their way. Everyone is so attached to what they believe, or what they feel is right, what they feel everyone should be doing. All these attachments, my way or the highway, This attitude of self-centeredness is the cause of our dis-ease. It makes life suffering, makes it tough. How do we make life not so tough? Don't be selfish. How do we do this? How do we make life not selfish? How do we help ourselves become less self-centered? Follow the Eightfold Path. Okay, I'm going to write Eightfold Path down now. The first one, see, you guys know this. You've heard this so many times, but I want you to hear it maybe for the first time. I want you to hear it that it's not just a list of stuff. It should make sense. The first one is right view. Sometimes you see right knowledge or right understanding. It's all the same. Right view, right knowledge, right understanding. Second, I'm only going to talk about the first four. Right thought, speech, and action. Okay? That's it. First four of the Eightfold Path. Very simple. How do we make life not so tough? Don't be selfish. How do we help ourselves not be selfish? Follow the Eightfold Path. What's the Eightfold Path? First one is so important, to have right view. To have right view. And if we have right view, then what we think, what we say, and what we do will follow. Without right view, without right knowledge, without right understanding, then what we think, what we say, and what we do will be inappropriate. Yeah, it'll be wrong. One of the examples I use with my kids is this, that in Sacramento, we had the Sacramento Kings basketball team. They used to be quite good. But imagine going to a basketball game, or a hockey game, and your team is down or tie score, the last quarter, and just in the last seconds of the last quarter, bang, your team scores a goal, and the crowd goes, wow, that's it, game over, we won. People are standing, cheering, shouting, and the guy sitting right in front of you stands up and he goes, touchdown, touchdown, yes, we won, touchdown. And you're thinking, idiot. Does this guy understand hockey? No. And so everything he thinks, says, and does, wrong again. Get it? When our view is incorrect, then what we think, say, and do is wrong. You're in line at McDonald's. And you're standing there, and I don't know what it is. The few times I go there, I mean, the menu's limited. You're looking at it, and you know exactly what you're going to get. And you're standing there, and the guy in front of you finally gets to the front and says, "I'll have a bucket of the extra crispy." And you're thinking, idiot. He thinks he's at KFC. Huh. Does he know where he is? No. So everything he thinks, says, and does, wrong again. Huh. You see, the Eightfold Path makes sense. Get it? It's not just a list. This stuff, it makes sense. The Buddha taught this for a reason. It makes sense. Okay? So we have to have a right view to see things clearly, understand things well. Then what we think, say, and do will follow. The way we live will be appropriate. But what are we supposed to view? What are we supposed to view? It's right here. Comes back to this. Huh? We have to open our eyes to the reality of impermanence and interdependence. If we open our eyes and see things truly, everything is impermanent, we begin to live with a different appreciation of the moment. Too easily, we do think, oh, I have many, many opportunities to do the things we want. Oh, I'll tell them next time how I feel. I'll thank them next time for what they've done. Huh. No, never know. We never know impermanence. Huh. There's no guarantee from the day we are born of even one day of life. Every day is special. And this day never comes again. In our lifetimes, how many months of January will be ours to enjoy? 10 more? 20 more? 50 more? However many, that number is limited. And when we understand that, when our eyes open to this reality of impermanence, then we do not take for granted even 1 month of January. Rain or shine, hot or cold, every day is a wonderful day. Huh? We see clearly this is a special moment. Then what we think, say, and do is different. It's different. I teach this, and yet it's hard to live. The Dharma I've been learning this again and again and again. The world is constantly teaching me the Dharma because I forget. I'm a dummy. Huh. That's why Jōdo Shinshū is for me. But always teaching us, wake up, open your eyes. In August of 2001, my wife and I took her mom and dad to, we traveled around the world with mom and dad, just the four of us. It's the greatest way to travel because both of them being senior citizens, we wouldn't travel much. We would go to London and stay there for a week in one hotel and just make day trips out, go to plays, come home every afternoon, 3:30, 3 o'clock, take a nap till 6, go out to dinner. Huh. They would take a nap, we go out shopping again. Go to Paris for a week. We went all over, went to Italy, went to Australia, New Zealand, Japan. And one trip we took was a great trip. We went to New York in 2001, and then up to Nova Scotia, took an overnight train to Montreal, rented a car, drove to Toronto. Oh, it's a great trip, wonderful, great food, friendly people. But New York, when we got there in that August, it was overcast and raining, and the concierge at the hotel said, he gave us an itinerary of places we should go to, and we went to the World Trade Center, and we looked up, and about 5 stories up is all you could see. Can't see any more than that. And I saw a big sign. We took a picture of this huge sign, World Trade Center. And then we thought, wow, no use going up to the top. It's all overcast, can't see anything. So we continued with our tour that afternoon. When we got back to the hotel, the concierge saw us and goes, "Oh, did you go to the top of the World Trade Center?" And I said, "No, it was so overcast and raining that we thought no use going up to the top." And he said, "Oh, these are the most beautiful days to be on top, because you're above the clouds. You're so high, you're looking down on the tops of the clouds, and the tops of buildings are just breaking through all around you." And he said, "It's amazing." And I thought, wow, you're kidding. So, okay, next time we're here, we're going to do that. A month later, it's gone. Everything is constantly changing. Can't take things for granted. How easily we do. "Oh, I'll see it next time I come. I'll tell them how I feel next time I see them." When my older brother turned 50, I remember we had a special Sunday brunch that we were all gathering. My parents, we met at this on the marina of Berkeley. My sister's in El Cerrito, my younger brother's in South Bay, my mom and dad in San Francisco, Patty and I in Sacramento. We converge on Berkeley. And my older brother lived in Berkeley. And I remember before that 50th birthday party, Patty said, "Well, we better find something for your brother for his birthday." And I said, "I have no time to shop. I'll get him something next time." She said, "No, we're going shopping now." And she loves to shop, so I figured, she's just using this as an excuse. But I couldn't find anything, and she gave me the order. "You will find a present today. Hurry, get it done." And I did. I found this jacket. I liked it so much I got one for myself. You like something when you get the same jacket for yourself. And then that day, we gathered the Berkeley Marina, had the great Sunday champagne brunch. Went to my sister's house to open presents, and I was very happy when he opened it. He liked it. He put it on and wore it. Pictures were taken. He's wearing the jacket. Wore it all afternoon. That makes you feel good when you give a gift and they put it on right away. And 3 weeks later, he had a stroke, massive stroke. And within a few days, he passed away. And I always think about that I'm so glad, that we spent that afternoon. But I had no idea that would be the last time we would speak. I had no idea that would be the last time we would be together, our family, in that such a way. And it was really awakening for our family. Brothers and sisters, we're supposed to grow old together. I'm supposed to have him right now. We're supposed to be 70, 80 years old and look back on these days and laugh and smile. And I realized again, cannot take for granted time we have together. If someone has shown us kindness, we must thank them now. If there's someone we care for in our lives, we must care for them now. This is what Buddhism teaches. Wake up. Wake up. Open your Dharma eyes. See what's really of value. Realize the truth of impermanence and interdependence, that you're not alone. You do not exist by yourself. The world does not revolve around you. It's the other way around. You exist because of the world. And when you see this, cannot help but be grateful. I am who I am because of the many people in my life. My parents, older brother and sister, great impact. Siblings mold us. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's impacted greatly on the person I am. So we are who we are interdependently because of so many people. But to awaken to Eightfold Path, right view, thought, speech, and action makes a lot of sense. And that's actually what Buddhism is. It makes sense. Socho Gui has said, if the Dharma means universal truth, if Dharma is truly universal truth, then it should make sense to anyone, any place, any time, any culture, in any language, right? If it doesn't make sense to anyone, to everyone, wherever they might be, in any language, in any time, any culture, if it doesn't make sense, it's not universal truth. Not universal. So Dharma, if the Dharma is truly universal truth, this is true, then it should make sense to anyone. Doesn't matter who you are, what culture, what language. And hopefully it does make sense. So, again, this is universal truth, not for us to believe, but for us to test. Before I erase this, I want to talk really briefly again, 4 noble truths. What is so noble about these truths? That always bothered me. Really, I used to ask people, what's so noble about the 4 noble truths? I admire them and think, oh yeah, that's really, but noble? Isn't that a little over the top? What is so noble about the 4 noble truths? And I used to ask teachers, what's noble about these truths? And no one really was able to give me a response that I felt comfortable with until my friend Bhante Silabhimala, my Sri Lankan friend, my monk friend from Sri Lanka. He said, truths aren't noble. These truths are not noble. He says, noble is a euphemism for a Buddha. One who is truly noble is a Buddha. Get it? So one who is really awake, when we are awake and living with eyes open to the truth of impermanence and the truth of oneness, when we're living in oneness with awareness of impermanence, when we are awake, we are noble. We are noble. The truly noble one is one who is awake. So 4 noble truths in a way is kind of a misnomer. It should really be, and I've been advocating the 4 noble truths, we should change the name of the 4 noble truths, and it should be this. The 4 truths according, or from the perspective of one who is enlightened. 4 truths as viewed from the perspective of one who is awake. But it's just too long. 4 truths as viewed from the perspective of one who is awake. So if we are awake, we see this. So it's a nice clarification. The truths themselves are not noble. The truths are realities as seen from one who is awake, who is then noble. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, that's a little cocktail trivia. Buddhist trivia. So, I'm going to try to move on now that we have foundation, essential foundation of what is Buddhism, then what is Jōdo Shinshū? And Yukawa Sensei, who I enjoyed working with for a number of years, who was my Rinban, the Sacramento Betsuin, prior to his retirement, he had a saying that I enjoy. He used to say, Jōdo Shinshū is not Buddhism. No, Jōdo Shinshū is not a sect of Buddhism. Jōdo Shinshū is Buddhism. Is Buddhism. Jōdo Shinshū is Buddhism. And that's, I think, often what we're thinking. We're separating. But in the great oneness of things, all of the many kinds of Dharma sharing, they are all Buddhism. And one of the, since you all, I just realized you all have the handout. I'm so glad. I didn't realize it was out there. I could have probably not have written everything down. I could have just, put it to the hand. but to go over this second handout, Dharma Whispers 2, and this I call them Dharma Whispers because when I first gave this presentation some years ago to my people in Sacramento, it was a lecture series with Dharma school teachers, and I lost my voice. So I was talking like this, and they all had to listen as I talked. And it was like whispers. And so I called them, ever since then, we called them Dharma Whispers. So as you can read here with me, a brief history. It took about 1,000 years for Buddhism to spread throughout Asia and into China. About 1,200 years ago, Buddhism arrived in Japan. And it's said that prior to Buddhism arriving in Japan, we know that Shinto was there, but Shinto as a tradition until then didn't really have a name. The Buddhist monks arrived and Shinto was the only religion there. If you're the only thing happening, if there's only one tree, you don't have to say pine or maple, right? Just say tree. Right? There's only one meal you eat a day. You don't have to call it breakfast, lunch, you just say meal. Yeah, but it was the only religion. And when the Buddhist monks came and they shared the Dharma and they said, and this we call Buddhism, the Buddha Dharma. They said, so what are you guys called? And the Shinto folks said, a moment. And they had to gather together and choose a name. So Buddhism impacted many, many subtle ways. Shinran Shonin was born 1173 during the very tumultuous Kamakura period. And at the age of 9, it said he lost his parents due to various circumstances. And at the age of 9, he became a Tendai monk. And for 20 years, he studied on Mount Hiei. And at the age of 29, it said that Shinran left Mount Hiei. And he left because of his great honesty. Here is Shinran trying so hard to attain enlightenment. And after 20 years of arduous practice, still he found himself incapable. And instead, when he looked within, Shinran found always the 3 poisons. And I explained the 3 poisons to the kids as a gas, easy to remember. Greed, anger, and I don't like the word stupidity, but it fits gas. So, stupidity. The word is really ignorance. I think it's a better word. Ignorance. See? And Shinran looked within and saw no matter how hard he was trying, still he found within him moments he's feeling greedy, gets angry, and ignorant. But see, within this word ignorance, what do you see? The word ignore. Ignore. There's the word ignore in ignorance. Ignorance means you're ignoring something. You're not looking at something. So Buddhist stupidity is not 1 + 1 is 3. That's mathematical ignorance. Buddhist ignorance is when we ignore what? When we ignore, get it? When we ignore impermanence and interdependence. When we refuse to acknowledge that. When we repent, when we start to think, I'm going to live forever. I can take things for granted. Then we're ignorant. That's Buddhist ignorance. So Shinran looked within and found still, no matter how hard he tried, still, he said, filled with greed and anger and ignorance, forgetting the truth of impermanence, interdependence. And so he left Mount Hiei and he found a great teacher in Honen Shonin. And Honen introduced Shinran to the Nembutsu path. And it said that Honen, teaching the Nembutsu, sharing it with people, and up until the time of Honen and Shinran, Buddhism in Japan was very much the property of the rich and famous. It was accessible only to nobility and those with means. And temples, the altar area was huge. And the Gejin area where the people would sit was very small. So, you know, the hondo that you have here, beautiful hondo here in Vancouver, if you imagine it reverse, where all the pews are, would be the altar, and where the altar is, that's where people could sit. So they had many monks and huge altar, and only a few places where people could sit, because it's only those with means and influence would be coming to the temple. So it was the property of the rich and famous. And with Shinran and Honen, they were sharing the Nembutsu with everyone. And it started to grow, become more and more popular, which incurred much jealousy. And in time, Nembutsu practice was outlawed. It was made illegal to recite Namu Amida Butsu in public. To do so, you could be executed. And some disciples were beheaded for reciting Nembutsu. Interesting, huh? Wow, there was such a time. So at that time, Shinran and Honen were exiled. Shinran went to Echigo up north, and Honen to Shikoku, the island off of Hiroshima. And they never saw each other again. But in a way, this became a great opportunity for Shinran to share the Dharma in a new place. And very much found himself to say, I am neither a priest nor a layman. To have no attachment to anything except wanting to share the Dharma. So Shinran began to share the Dharma, share the Nembutsu, and he became very well known, very charismatic, clearly. And after he passed away, people began to make pilgrimages to his gravesite. And there was no doubt that Shinran impacted on many, many people in his lifetime. And after he passed away, his wife and daughter, they formed the Honganji. They started Honganji. Shinran didn't intend to create Jōdo Shinshū. I think that's interesting to note. Shinran lived his entire life and died as a disciple of Honen. He never for a moment said, I am going to found a new religion, it will be called Jōdo Shinshū. No. He was a disciple of Honen, sharing the Nembutsu teaching. So, but Shinran especially tried to, the Nembutsu teaching was one of many ways that Honen taught the Dharma. And it's one that Shinran especially gravitated to. And he felt, this is for me. This is for me. Shinran never said, Nembutsu is the way for everyone. He said, this is the way for me. This is the way for me. This is the best way for me to understand the Dharma, to practice the Dharma, to appreciate the Dharma. And so this Nembutsu teaching really caught on. And what is it? Jōdo Shinshū is Nembutsu teaching. Namu Amida Butsu is Nembutsu. Jōdo Shinshū is this sect of Buddhism. Namu Amida Butsu is the essential teaching, the heart of Jōdo Shinshū. So what is it? What is it we're saying when we say Namu Amida Butsu? So I think that's what I want to spend a little time on before I open it up for some questions. I want us to be able to understand what is this expression that we say, Namu Amida Butsu. Okay? And this, as I think is written, Namo can be described or translated as to think upon, to center our lives on, to be focused on. So to think upon, I'll just use that one. Think upon, center our lives on. And Butsu is Buddha, which we know is one who is awake. And then Amida. Wow, what is Amida? Amida is very, very interesting. Amida is a concept that embodies the essence of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment. What is the essence of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment? After a few hundred years, there was after the Buddha died, councils of monks would meet and they would debate, no, you have to follow what Shakyamuni taught, the words that he taught. And then sometimes we get bogged down in just arguing about words. Then there was a group, and the Mahayanas, the Mahayana Buddhists, they said, no, we should be more concerned with the content of his enlightenment. Content of his life. What was the essence of Siddhartha's enlightenment? What was the essence of his awakening? That's the goal of Buddhism. In a way, there's a great haiku poet, Basho, that some of you know. Basho, I love this saying by Basho. He said, do not follow in the steps of the masters. Seek instead what they sought. Get it? Do not follow in the steps of the masters. Instead, look for what they were looking for. Seek what they sought. Wow, it's powerful. And in a way, I think this captures the Mahayanist view. Don't just march in step following the words only. Think about the essence, the dynamic, living essence that was Siddhartha's enlightenment. Seek what he sought. And so they distilled the essence of his enlightenment to these two concepts. And you see them there, Amitayus and Amitabha. I think I wrote that down, yeah. Amitayus, Amitabha. Okay. Amitayus, Amitabha. And what is this, And these two, these two things are wisdom and compassion. Wisdom and compassion. So, the essence of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment was wisdom. And Amitayus is not just wisdom, it's infinite wisdom. And Amitabha is not just compassion, it's immeasurable compassion. Immeasurable compassion. So, Namo Amida Butsu means to think deeply upon the infinite wisdom and the immeasurable compassion, awakening that surrounds us and sustains our lives. Infinite and immeasurable. But, I don't really care for these words, wisdom and compassion. And wisdom, wisdom with the M. I don't care for these words. I don't use them very often in Sacramento. I use instead of wisdom, because these words are wonderful words, but they're so great. They're so great, they're almost, they are unapproachable. If I said to you, are you capable of wisdom? You might feel like, well, hey, wisdom, I don't know. I mean, do I look like a Buddha? No, but if I said, are you capable of understanding? You would field, I think, yeah, I can understand. So I use instead infinite understanding. So we can start to get a feel for it and not think it only happens out there, but it happens right here inside of me. And instead of compassion, are you capable of true compassion? I don't know about that. But are you able to care? Huh? Are you able to care? Sure, I can care. So use caring. C-A-R-I-N. Caring. Immeasurable caring. So to think about the immeasurable infinite understanding and immeasurable caring that surrounds and sustains us, that allows us to live. And you need both. You need wisdom and compassion. You need caring and understanding. One is not better than the other. Wisdom is not better than compassion, and compassion is not better than wisdom. Although often we tend to judge, no, you need compassion, that's more important. No, wisdom is more important. No, caring and understanding are both essential. If all you have is one, you have nothing. You need both. If you only have one, it's not enough. And if it's lopsided, it's no good. Like having your wheels aligned in the car for it to go straight, they have to be balanced. Have to be balanced. Wisdom and compassion together. Think upon immeasurable wisdom, infinite compassion, interchangeable. But, okay, and I'm explaining this as I do with my kids. And I want to focus just momentarily on the words infinite and immeasurable. Because I think these are key words. They're key for us to understand the feeling of Nembutsu. Infinite and immeasurable. These are great, huge words. But what do they describe? Second line, Shoshinge, Namo Fukashigi Ko. Namo, to think about, Fukashigi Ko, infinite light, which is the wisdom. Fukashigi is unbelievable, beyond belief. Infinite is beyond belief. Immeasurable, beyond belief. Fukashigi, unbelievable. When we encounter unbelievability, what do we feel? When change comes into our lives and we encounter unbelievability, what do we feel? And change is always happening in our lives. And we're almost always saying, Namo Amida Butsu. But instead we say this, wow, no way, are you kidding? Wow, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Fukashigi, I can't believe it. Wow, no way, wow, wow. This feeling of wow-ness is a feeling of onembutsu. Onembutsu has kind of a wow-ness feeling to it. Wow, unbelievable. Back in 1985, I have a cousin in San Francisco. Lotto started in 1984. The Lotto in California. And my cousin, one of my cousins in San Francisco, back then he just picked these numbers, and I don't gamble, so I think I played Lotto a few times, but I stopped doing that years and years ago because I never checked the numbers. Oh, wow, it's $40 million, I'll buy a ticket. And then, a month later it goes, oh yeah, who won that anyway? Where's that ticket? It's like, why even buy it, So I don't do that anymore. Don't waste my time or money. But my cousin Frank, he received 6 figures. He got a 6-figure win, almost $400,000, just by picking these numbers. Wow, $360,000, $70,000. My mom calls me and says, hey, cousin Frank, guess what? You won big in Lotto, almost $400,000. And what comes out of my mouth? Wow, you're kidding, I can't believe it. You really? Wow, I'm just saying, unbelievable. How unbelievable such impermanence manifests in my life. in his life, in our lives. Interestingly, within weeks, I received a call from one of my childhood friends, and his father passed away. His father was always so good to me. Growing up, I would be at his house a lot. His mother and father were like my mother and father. Sometimes in high school, even in college, I remember going over to his house, and it would be 2, 3 in the morning. We're sitting there in his room, hanging out. 2:30 in the morning, his father would knock on the door, and he would come in with sandwiches and sodas. Can you believe that? What a sweet man. And he would stay for a while and ask me how I'm doing. And he goes, wow, stay as long as you want. Just drive home carefully. And he'd leave. And he was such a good, kind man. And I remember he did watch repair. And so many times he fixed this one watch. I had a Seiko watch that was self-winding. That's back in the early 60s. So it was, and it was still experimental, I guess, because that thing always broke. And every time he used to see me without my watch, he would say, hey, Bob, where's your watch? And I said, oh, it broke again. He goes, oh, just give it to me, I'll fix it. He must have fixed that watch half a dozen times for me. I felt each time so bad. He says, oh, I'll fix it, don't worry about it. Such a good man. And I loved him. And when he called to tell me his dad passed away, same words came out of my mouth. I said, wow, I can't believe it. Really? Oh, no. Same words. Frank won lotto. My friend Ron's father passed away. Wow, can't believe it. What am I responding to? I'm responding to impermanence, manifesting in our lives. Responding to impermanence with this sense of unbelievability, infinite, immeasurable, fukashigi, unbelievable. And I look back and I realize the wonderful caring and understanding that his father always gave me, cared for me, always trying to understand. Such a good man. And there is this thinking, realizing I'm surrounded by so much caring and understanding. And what is the result of this? Is a feeling of deep gratitude. Deep gratitude. Gratitude so deep, words thank you are not enough. And in a way, to me, this is one of my descriptions of what is Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu is that level of gratitude so deep, the words thank you are insufficient. Namo Amida Butsu, when we say this, it's an expression of appreciation so deep, no words can begin to express how thankful we are. So, this is one kind of sense of what is Amitayus, Amita, realizing the infinite wisdom, caring, understanding, compassion that surrounds and allows us to live. And as I mentioned, you need both. You can't just have one or the other. You need both. There's a book that was children's book that was written a while back that I really hate. I don't hate a lot of things, but I really despise this book. It's called The Giving Tree. Some of you know it. You know the story, The Giving Tree? I hate this book. Every time I see this, I say, stupid book. It's a book about a tree and a relationship a tree has with this boy. Anyone familiar with this? Yeah, you know the book? And the tree, and it says the tree loves the boy and the boy loves the tree, and he climbs in the branches and play, and it says the tree is happy. Then the boy gets older again, and the tree, so loving, doesn't see the boy and misses the boy. Then the boy comes back, and the tree says, oh, I'm so happy to see you, boy, and oh, he's my friend this year. We love each other so much. the boy says, oh, I just wish I had some money so I could go to town and have a good time. The tree says, well, take my apples. Here, I'll take them all and go to town, sell them and make money. And so the boy takes all the apples, goes to town, sells money, and it says the tree is happy. And the boy comes back years later and he's sad again. And the tree says, what's wrong? And he goes, well, I found the girl, want to get married, but I want to build a house, but I have nothing to build a house with. And the tree said, well, cut down all my branches and build a house. And as can only happen in a children's story, with the branches from this tree, he cuts down and builds a house. The boy comes back years later, he's unhappy again. And tree says, what's wrong? And he says, oh, everything's gone south, my life is a mess, I just wish I could get away, go down the river. And the tree says, well, cut down my trunk and make a canoe and head down river. And the tree says, boy says, yeah, cool. Cuts down the tree, calls it out, gets in, he goes down the river, disappears, and it says the tree is happy. And years later, the boy comes back as a very old man with a cane, and the tree recognizes, oh, boy, you're very happy. Oh, so happy to see you. And the boy says, I'm no longer a little boy. I'm very old, and And the tree says, well, I have nothing else to give you. I'm only a stump, but a stump is a good place to sit. And the old man that was once the boy sits on the stump, and it says, and the tree was happy. That is one stupid tree. That's you could say that tree is full of compassion, Compassion only. Giving, giving, giving. That is so dumb. That tree was, I think we would call it, in psychology, they might call it the enabling tree. Yeah, did that boy learn anything in life? No. Was he ever happy? No. And at the end of his life, what did he just sat there miserable on the stump, and the tree is happy. See, that's an idea of, an example of compassion only. Compassion only. Compassion only is useless. That tree should have been kicking that boy's butt. What are you doing playing here? Get to school. Let me see your report card. What's up with you? You should be studying more. Want money? Go get a job. Work for it. What's wrong with you? He should have been slapping that boy around. Just get your life together. But no, giving tree. Keep giving, giving, giving. Compassion. Oh, infinite compassion. I keep giving till I'm a stump. The boy learns nothing. Life is miserable. So, see, compassion alone is not enough. Not enough. It's useless, in fact. Damaging. So, wisdom alone, too. If you say, yes, everything is impermanent, you must let go, such is life, that's only wisdom. And that too is useless. That's dead. It has no life. Someone so detached and uninvolved, he's not alive. Such a person is not alive. They're just thinking about life. Yes, all things are impermanent. Wisdom alone, useless. You need both. And I think when we have both in gear, then it's like having right view. That what we think, what we say, what we do will follow. What we think and say and do follows when wisdom and compassion, caring and understanding are in sync. And I think one of my favorite examples of thinking of wisdom and compassion, caring and understanding in sync is the story of Genshin, who is one of our 7 masters. If you have the scroll showing the Shichikoso, there's 2 in India, 3 in China, 2 in Japan. Genshin is one of the 2 in Japan. Genshin and then Honen, Genku. So, but Genshin lived about 1,000 years ago and said in a nutshell, he was this child genius. He was this incredible young man who memorized the sutras and impressed everyone with his knowledge. Remarkable, remarkable young man, able to truly interpret and understand the Dharma. Very, very prolific in his writing and in his understanding. And it's said that the emperor asked Genshin, said, I have to told him, I have to build you a temple. You are remarkable. You are incredible. I'm going to make you the head of a temple and build this for you. And Genshin said, no, I'd just like a school. I'd like to just teach, share the Dharma. And the emperor said, done. And Genshin he built Genshin a school, the eastern mountains of Kyoto. And it said that during the late autumn, when he was teaching a class, maybe he was talking about, compassion. He looked out the window and he saw these deer, does, fawns, deer, coming down the mountain to feed on the few remaining green leaves on the bottom of the hill. And when Genshin saw this, he immediately, picked up a stick and jumped outside and began to beat them and shout at them, get out of here, get out, what are you doing? Chasing them up the hill, screaming and shouting, throwing the stick at them, picking up rocks and throwing at them, hitting them as hard as he could if he could hit them. And then he comes back to the classroom and he goes, anyway, where was, oh yes, compassion. Let me tell you about compassion. And the students, of course, said, what a hypocrite. Wow, I mean, gee, this guy talks about compassion, but well, is he compassionate? Not. And as the days passed, fewer and fewer students came. And finally, with few students there, one of the students asked him, Sensei, do you realize no one's coming? And he said, wow, maybe flu? But the students explained, no, a few days ago, the deer were feeding outside. You talk of compassion, but what did you do? You beat them, you scream at them, you chase them up the hill, you throw rocks at them. What kind of compassion is that? If you were compassionate, you would feed those deer. At the very least, you would let them feed. You wouldn't chase them away like that if you were compassionate. And Genshin said, no, I love those deer. I love those deer. And because I care for them, I have to teach them. Because in a few short weeks, winter will come to the mountains, and the hunters will come also. And if we feed the deer, or even let them feed near us, when they see the hunters, they will think, oh, there are human beings, there are friends. Let's go to them and maybe we'll get food. But I have to teach them, when you see human beings, run for your life. Run for your life so you can live. Get it? Who has compassion? There you have wisdom and compassion. Caring and true understanding in sync. But too easily we tend to judge. I know what compassion is, and that's not it. No, you never can really tell. Can't really tell. Genshin's, what he did that day, I think, really shows understanding and caring in sync. That we need both. We need both in order to think, speak, and act appropriately. So this idea of Amida, of wisdom and compassion, Amida is not out there. Amida is not a being that's out there looking down saying, okay, how is everyone doing? I'm going to judge everybody. No, it's not about that. Amida surrounds and sustains us. It's the universe. Amida is infinite caring, immeasurable understanding. Surrounds and sustains us every day. Everything is Amida. And each of us has an Amida aspect to our lives. Yeah. One of the wonderful definitions of Amida that my friend Ken Tanaka, Dr. Ken Tanaka, shared with me years ago. Ken and I, we're about the same age. He went to Stanford, I went to Cal, but I liked him anyway. And we studied together at the Institute of Buddhist Studies. And I think what really drew us together was that both of us were very idealistic. I did not study Buddhism to become a minister. I did not pursue the Dharma so I could wear a fuho and wagesha. I wanted enlightenment. I wanted enlightenment. When I began to study Buddhism, I wanted enlightenment. I was seeking enlightenment, and so was Ken. And I remember both of us having great discussions, talking about what we have to seek enlightenment. I would sit, zazen, meet with, at that time in San Francisco, great interest in the Dharma. Rinpoche Trungpa had just come over too. I was meeting with Rinpoche Trungpa, Katagiri Roshi, and Ogui Socho, Ogui Sensei, and Venerable Piyananda Piyadasa from Sri Lanka. So just absorbed. I want to absorb the Dharma in every flavor. I have to become enlightened. And my friend Ken, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, he left the IBS, the Institute of Buddhist Studies, and he went to Thailand to become a monk. And he sent me a picture. He had orange robes and a bald head, and with the jungle background, And I remember getting this picture. I went, "Oh no, Ken's gonna be enlightened before me. I have to meditate more." And I did. I was intent meditation. I was going to, and I went to all kinds of zazen, sesshin, studying with different people. I went to study with Sasaki Roshi, Southern California. He would have retreats, and I would go and sit zazen. And I remember after a couple years of pursuing what I thought was pretty intently, I went to one retreat, and we would sit, zazen 4 times a day. 20-minute sesshin, then 20-minute walking meditation, then 20-minute sesshin. One of the days of the retreat was a complete fasting day. And I went to this retreat. I'd been there before. And on this retreat, I remember there was a really cute girl. Right away, I saw, wow, she's really cute. But I told myself, Bob, you're not here to meet cute girls. You are here for enlightenment. Yes. All right. So I completely ignored her. I shut her off. Forget it. Not going to go over there and talk to her. Nothing. Don't leave. Stop that. The sesshin, I'd sit there on my zafu, sitting. Oh, yes. When the jikijitsu came by, I would gasho. I would lean forward. He hit me with the kesa. Oh, yeah. Oh, then meditate. Oh, yes, I'm going to become enlightened. And then, during one of the breaks, this really cute girl came up to me, and she introduced herself. And she said, I've been watching you. And she said, your zazen is really good. She said that to me. Your zazen is really good. And I just said, well, thank you very much. I've been trying to practice very hard. And I just said thank you, that's it. I didn't want to pursue conversation. I'm not here to meet pretty girls. I am here for enlightenment. So, thank you very much. Yeah. Then, next session we went to, of course, skip my pluff up your zafu pillow, and then stretching, getting ready, sit down, getting ready. Then Roshi rings the bell. Boom. Okay, sit, zazen. And I'm sitting, and all I could think about is, hey. She's looking at you. And she said, your zazen is pretty good. Which defeats the entire purpose, because who am I centered on? In Four Noble Truths, me, hey. Greed, 3 poisons, all right here. And I started to laugh. I had to gasho, stand up, excuse myself, and leave the zendo. And outside I laughed really hard, really long at myself. And that's when I began to understand that I'm Jōdo Shinshū. That I'm so incapable, just as Shinran, the 3 poisons. Gosh, he did 20 years, I just did 2 years. I thought I was close, but I'm back at square one. Back at square one. And in a way, that's one of my descriptions of Jōdo Shinshū. We are square one Buddhism. Always back at square one. But each time we come back, pretty soon square gets bigger and bigger, I think, till it's a square with no ends. But it's just the beginning. We're always at the beginning. Always finding ourselves back at the beginning. Realizing again, I'm just Bombu. I'm just foolish. Always forgetting the reality of impermanence. And I'm learning it again and again. Taking for granted so much, not realizing interdependence. Foolish Bob. And Namo Amida Butsu is to be realized that we exist only because of others. We are other, in a way it's other-centeredness. Other-centeredness rather than self-centeredness. Other-centeredness and not self-centeredness. Every time we're self-centered, anytime we become angry or feel greedy, or thinking only about ourselves, we're not saying Namo Amida Butsu, we're saying Namo me. I'm saying Namo Ba Oshita, Namo Ba Oshita. I'm only thinking of me instead of Namo Amida Butsu. How grateful for so many circumstances, people and events allowing me to be here today. My friend Ken that I'm going to talk about now, and I'll close with this. He shared with me once his understanding of Amida that he had recently at that time. He was teaching at the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley, and he lived in El Cerrito, which is about 3-4 miles, maybe 5. I've never walked it. I never even clocked it in the car. My sister lives in El Cerrito, and I know the area very well. It is a little bit of a ways, and it would be a pretty good walk. And he would walk that sometimes, just for exercise. And he said one afternoon, he walked back from Berkeley and to El Cerrito, and it was rather hot. It was warmer than he expected it to be, and it was a long, trying day. He had a lot that happened that day, and internally, he said, physically and emotionally, mentally, he felt exhausted. And he was looking forward to just going home, taking a nap. And at the time, his firstborn son, Aaron, was only 2 years old. And he said, he opened the door quietly and listened. House was quiet. So he thought, oh, everyone's taking a nap. And rather than going to the house, he went to the first room, the living room, the side, and he said he just laid down on the floor. And he said, I'm just going to close my eyes here while it's nice and quiet, take a nap. But just when he was dozing off, his 2-year-old son, Aaron, came into the room. And he said Aaron saw him on the ground, and he heard him. And they would often play, and they're on the floor together. And his 2-year-old son, seeing his father there, said, oh, Dad's home, huh? We're going to play. So he starts pulling on him and climbing him, trying to wake him up to play. And Ken said he was so tired. He said, I think I'll just pretend I'm asleep. Maybe he'll go away. Sure enough, after a few minutes, Aaron went away. Then Ken said, now I'm going to doze off. Rest. It worked. Just when he was dozing off again, he heard him come back in the room again. This time, he wasn't just pulling on his clothes, he was pulling on his hair. And he was pulling his hair up and then dropping it. Pulling his head up and dropping it. So his head's going up and hitting it, head going. And then he said, finally he said, I can't pretend I'm asleep anymore. And he was going to sit up and he was going to scold him and say, can't you see Daddy's trying to sleep, And when he sat up to scold his son, he saw that his 2-year-old son had gone down the hallway into the bedroom, pulled a pillow down from the bed, dragged it down the hall, and was trying to lift his father's head to put the pillow under so he could sleep more comfortably. And he said at that moment, he realized his 2-year-old son was Amida. Do you get it? The infinite caring, immeasurable understanding that surrounds you, sustains you, and allows you to live. Amida is everywhere. When our Dharma eyes open, we see this. Amida's not out there. Yeah, it's amazing. I heard this other wonderful explanation of Amida. Young father who had been attending a study class explained to the minister one day, said, I finally understand Amida. And so the minister said, oh really? So, how do you understand Amida? He said, Amida is like Santa Claus. I said, Santa Claus? He said, and how is that? He said, when I was young, I believed in Santa Claus. Then I got older, and I didn't believe in Santa Claus. Now I realize I am Santa Claus. And there is this Amida aspect, Buddha nature within all of us. Yeah. We are surrounded by each other's Amida aspect, the otherness, allowing us to exist. So, anyway, with that, very, very brief, I just had to ram this through to give you a sense. Jōdo Shinshū is the teaching of Namo Amida Butsu. What is Namo Amida Butsu? Namo Amida Butsu is the essence of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment. What is that? Infinite caring, immeasurable understanding that surrounds and sustains us. To be others-centered. Namo Amida Butsu. That level of gratitude where the words thank you are no longer enough. So especially times of happiness and sadness, we gather and reflect deeply how remarkable to exist this moment because of Bombu. For those of you unfamiliar with Jōdo Shinshū terms, means foolish common person. Foolish common person. Our home, our Buddhist name, usually it's something we aspire to. It's supposed to be something we try to aspire to. But I thought, I'll set myself up for success. I'll aspire to be foolish, which is no problem. But, actually, it's Shinran. Shinran always said, I am just Bombu. I am just Bombu. And I thought, yeah, me too. And it's a good reminder. So I selected that. And I know it's unusual. I didn't realize it at the time because, I'm in Japan. I was just this young gaijin student. What does he know? I just picked something I thought was appropriate. And yet, it's very unusual because when I was at Nishiyama Betsuin, even during Tokudo, instructors would come into our Han, our group of students, when we're studying or getting ready to even sleep. And they would, many times they did this. They would come in and bring some people, and they would say, "Bombu wa dare desu ka?" Which one of you is? And I would raise my hand, and I thought they wanted to talk to me, but they just went, so desu ka, and then they leave. they just wanted to see what fool would choose this for homyo. So, yeah. Oh, good. Middle path. Okay. Middle path is there are many ways to look at it, but it's a path of non-extreme. It's also one description of Buddhism I really like is a journey to the present, a journey to the moment that is right now. To live in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, but Buddhism is to live in the moment. And living in the moment is the middle path between the past and the future. Huh? You see that? That's one way of seeing it in terms of time. This is the middle path, right now, right now, right now. Another way of looking at middle path is that it's not wisdom and compassion, it's both. Huh? See? It's both. Combining the middle path, both wisdom and compassion. One alone is not enough. One alone is completely inadequate. Now you have to have them both. It's the middle, makes it the middle path. Also, the idea of attachment. Attachment. Attachment is a very important concept in Buddhism. That we have to let go. Have to learn to let go. Life is constantly changing. So we are always having to let go. Whether we like it or not, we have to let go. My sister called me one night when her second child was going to leave for France for her junior year abroad. And I remember her phone call. She called late, and it was very pensive. Her voice was thoughtful. And so I said to her, Janie, what's wrong? And she said, well, you know, Cheryl's going to France, leaving about a week. I said, yeah. Because when she last year asked to go, of course, we were happy to help her go. They looked into the program, arranged for her to go, looked into the school in Paris, where she's going to be, even arranged for the whole family to go to Europe that summer to be with her and travel the Mediterranean. And it was great, but she said, just before her daughter's going, she said, she said to me that day, that evening, I realized what it is to be a mom. And I said, what's that? And she said, being a mom is having to learn to let go. You hold your baby, you carry your baby for 9 months, and then she's born, the umbilical cord is cut, and you have to let her go. Then you carry her in your arms, and you nurture and love her. Pretty soon she begins to walk and toddle and runs around, and you have to let her go. One day, training wheels come off of the bike, and you're running alongside of her, and she's saying, Mommy, don't let go, Mommy, don't let go. And I say, I won't, and then you have to let her go. She said, now my baby's going to Paris, and I have to let her go. And she said this, and I went, you're absolutely right. Janie, you're absolutely right. But this is more than just what it is to be a parent. This is what it is to live life. In living life, we're constantly having to let go. That's non-attachment. Non-attachment is not detachment. See, people want to come to conclusions. Remember that? I was talking about come to a conclusion, so I know it. Non-attachment. Buddhism talks about non-attachment. People say immediately, that's detachment. No. Detachment is like wisdom only. Ah, yes, all things are impermanent. Attachment is like caring only, the giving tree. Oh, and the tree is happy. Non-attachment is the middle path between detachment, wisdom, and attachment, caring. Non-attachment means caring deeply, letting go. Loving deeply, letting go. Caring deeply, letting go. Whether you want to or not, if you don't let go, you will become dysfunctional. You'll not be able to function. Life will pry things from your fingers. You have to let go. So that's the middle path. Very dynamic. I wish I had more time to talk about it. Hopefully you get the feel for middle path. It's tremendous teaching. It's not just one of these throw-ins. Middle path is a major teaching, very important, very dynamic. And when I hope you get a feel for how interesting it is, how meaningful middle path is. So,
may I interrupt?
Yeah.
Sensei, we're pressed for time. I wish we could continue. It's been just really quite delightful to be able to have you put into a package in the course of 2 hours the complete picture of not just general Buddhism, but Jōdo Shinshū. I find quite amazing. And thank you very much. Very concise and a charismatic delivery. So we thank you very much. We got to get you going to Fraser Valley before too long. So I'd like to thank you all for listening, and on behalf of all of us, may I say thank you.